Welcome to the next video we have. In this one, we're going to see how an ASP.NET Core project, what it looks like. It's completely different from our old way of doing things. So let's get an understanding of that. So when you actually create a project, which we have done in our previous videos, you get a basic project, then we did the debug or just run, and we can see that the output. So now let's see how it looks like. So this is how your base project would look like in Visual Studio. So we have a startup.cs file, we have a project.json file, and we'll have something like www.root. Okay, so what are these things? So how it's completely different from the way we do things to in the old version of ASP.NET. So let's get switched to Visual Studio. Okay, so what I have here is my default project, which I just created using the template, and I have something called www.root. So think of www.root as all your content resides. Okay, and we will see what is the purpose of www.root in the next video, and we have something like startup.cs. Startup.cs is the starting point where this is where you plug which requires what, how the URL should be handled, and what are the different services we are using, and these these components are the ones which our application is going to use, things like that. So this is where our starting point. You can compare this to, if you know ASP.NET, the old ASP.NET, compare this to global.asax which we had. Okay, and also something to do with some part in web.config file. So we have everything. We configure our pipeline, request pipeline, everything in the startup.cs file. Okay, and we'll be having something like app settings.json. So the good thing about, the different thing about ASP.NET Core is that you can put your configuration in any medium you want. You can have it on a JSON file, you can have it on an XML file, you can even set it in your environment variable, or you can have it in a simple text or INF file. So it gives you a plethora of options to have in your configure file, and if you just create the default file, you have it. So you can see your connection string and all those details are actually in the app settings.json file. You can even have a different name for this and configure it that way. So this is how your basic application will look like, or the project structure will look like in ASP.NET Core. And another thing which you have to see is the framework target, like what's the framework version which we are running under. So that we will see in project.config file, and we have frameworks, and say it runs on DNX 451 and DNX 50. Let's see a new project which I generated or created using Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, I have the same structure of one. I have www.root, and I have startup.cs file, and project.json. I have frameworks, and we have something else here. So this will be since it's RC2, there are so many changes it's going through, but this is where it specifies where this is my application is running under this version. And the next thing is that we have something like dependencies, which says my application is using these libraries. Think of it this as your reference DLLs. In this case, ASP.NET Core basically references NuGet packages. So basically it's referring NuGet package, and here is what you say that, okay, my application is referring diagnostic or ASP.NET Core MVC NuGet packages. Okay, so that's about simplest of which we the simplest difference. You can, if you just take a couple more important points, reference dependencies, and another thing is we have something called commands. Okay, commands specify how we can actually run our application. Here is what we specify. We can even specify to Kestrel. We can say listen on this URL, and this is the port number and IP address and stuff like that. Okay, so that's another thing which we have here in the project JSON file. Okay, let's so the framework target we saw, and we have DNX for 50, DNX 50, and we also saw .NET app. So we will get to the details of each of these when we go along. Okay, and the project.json file, we already saw that we have um, the dependencies, the frameworks, and commands. All these details are there. Okay, and you can, some many other things are self-explanatory, like what version of our application and stuff like that. Okay, so, and also have compiler option where you can say debug or tickle to true. That kind of changes the basic which you normally used to do with web.config file. And the project.json file, just to summarize, it defines the dependencies, basically references, and it allows you to configure custom commands. So you can run application from a command line, or you can just start up your application from a command line. So when we ran, if you see an old one, we ran .NET run. When you actually got the project using the .NET CLI samples, we just ran the command .NET run, and that the command was possible because we pre-configured it. Okay, we have target frameworks, and we also have client-side packages you can manage in project.json file. Okay, so that's about the project.json file, and we will have something like global.json file. It includes two sections, projects and SDK. So what's the SDK our application is using, and what are the different projects? So projects are basically these. When you say source, I have one project or my project in this directory, and then have another in this. You can have custom path also. So let's go to Visual Studio, and here you can actually see that here it's basically SRC and test. So if I had a folder called test, that would also come in the solution here itself as another folder icon, and I can expand and see. So that way all you have to do is if you just put another folder name, and that will automatically be loaded by Visual Studio once you change this. So global.json defines that, and we have SDK. So why we have project.json file and why we have something like global.json file? So in one project should actually target one SDK. For example, all the projects should basically say RC1 update 1 or RC2, or say some RTM or some version 2 version 3 like that. So global.json defines for the all project, and the framework basically says it can run on these frameworks as well. So this is where you define the entire project file. So you have a class library that also should run on say RC1 update 1. So that's why it's actually goes to the global.json file. Okay, so it's easy for Visual Studio to load the project once you add another folder here, and if you add folder present, it will automatically load that guy. And the next is www root folder. Www root folder is where your content resides. So if you have say a jQuery file you're using, and jQuery.json is here, and if a request comes for jQuery.json, it will not be served. It has to go inside www root. This also we have pre-configured that this is my root, and that's you can actually change that. Okay, but this is also you can configure in my application, the JSON file, the project.json file. Okay, so that's we have startup.jsv, so we have project.json, we have global.json file, and we have www root where all our content resides. And why www root in this way? That is explained in the next video. Okay, we'll go a little more details on each of these things. In this one we just want to familiarize how the project will look like and what makes out of each. Okay, and this is just www root is basically as I explained, all your static files resides here. Okay, so your DLLs or your C sharp or code files does not go in there. If it goes inside www root, it will be accessible to the end user. Okay, so another thing which you may see is the client-side dependency management, which you can actually see dependencies, and you have bower and npm packages shown here itself. Okay, so you can add another bower package. Say you're using an Angular, if you add that Angular package and refer that, so it will automatically come here, and you can update that as well. Your project will automatically. So this is tightly integrated to all these client-side package manage, and also Power, npm, and Gulp and Grunt task runners as well. So that's about the project structure. The main four different differences we have: startup.json, project.json, startup.cs, project.json. We have a www root for all our content goes, and we'll have a global.json at the top, and we also have all the settings or configuration goes to JSON files. Okay, so that's about the project structure. Please watch the next video to get more understanding on each of these. Thank you for watching.